The challenge no one survives. The arena was silent at first, then the sound of thousands of alien voices rose like a storm. They shouted, laughed, and hissed. For them it was entertainment. For the one who stood in the middle it was life or death. That one was a human. He looked small compared to the tall warriors around him. His clothes were torn, his skin marked with scars, but his eyes were steady. The alien saw weakness. The human saw only one path, forward. Above the arena, carved into black stone, sat the High Council of the alien race. They were proud, ancient, and merciless. They ruled many worlds, and they had created a test that no one could ever pass more than once. It was called the Trial of Limits. Every species knew the saying, "No one survives it twice." The words had spread like fire through the galaxy. Entire armies had tried. Entire bloodlines had failed. It was not just a challenge, it was a curse. The human had been captured weeks ago. To the aliens, he was nothing more than a fragile creature. To them, his people were still young, still learning, still weak. Yet here he was, standing before the greatest trial ever made. From the shadows of the council platform, a woman's voice whispered, low enough for only a few to hear. "Impossible," she said. Her tone was sharp, certain, almost cruel. She looked down at the human with cold alien eyes. No one can do that more than once. But the human lifted his head. He did not flinch when he met her gaze. His lips curved slightly, not into a smile, but into something else, something like defiance. The gates of the first trial began to open. A sound like grinding mountains filled the air. The ground trembled. The crowd grew louder, chanting in languages that clashed and echoed like thunder. The alien announcer, his voice booming from the walls, called out the rules. Survive, and you may walk again. Fail, and your body becomes part of the sand. The first trial was brutal. Out from the gates came waves of machines built to crush, break, and burn. The arena floor split, revealing pits of fire. Blades rose from hidden walls. Gravity itself shifted, forcing every creature that stepped inside to crawl, as if the world pressed down with the weight of mountains. The aliens leaned forward, eager to watch the human's death, but the human did not fall. Step by step he moved. His knees bent under the crushing gravity, but he did not break. He rolled aside as blades snapped from the walls. Fire licked his arms, burning his skin, but his eyes stayed sharp, locked on the path ahead. The crowd grew restless. They had expected a scream, a collapse, an end. But the human kept moving. His body was weak, but his spirit was unshakable. The woman on the council whispered again, this time softer, almost to herself. Impossible. Minutes felt like hours. The trial threw everything it had at him. Machines striking like beasts, fire roaring, stone walls closing in. But the human refused to stop. His breath came in ragged gasps, his muscles screamed in pain, yet his feet carried him forward. At last, the machines went still. The fire died. The crushing gravity lifted. The arena was silent again. The human stood in the center, chest rising and falling, sweat and blood staining his body. He had survived. The silence lasted only a moment before it shattered into chaos. Aliens shouted in disbelief, their voices clashing with rage, shock, and fear. This was not supposed to happen. A human, of all creatures, had done what even the strongest could not. The alien announcer's voice cracked as he spoke. He survives. The council shifted uneasily. The woman leaned forward, her cold mask breaking for just a second. There was something in her eyes now. Curiosity and maybe even fear. The human raised his head once more. He was not smiling. He was not celebrating. He simply breathed, waiting for the next gate to open. The crowd could not understand it, but the woman did. She whispered again, her voice trembling this time. No one survives more than once. Yet deep inside, she already knew this human was different, and the night was only beginning. The first trial. Breaking limits, the gates groaned open again, louder this time like ancient monsters waking from sleep. A harsh wind swept into the arena, carrying sparks and dust. The crowd leaned forward, their many eyes glowing in the dim light. They wanted blood. They wanted to see the human crushed under the weight of the impossible. The alien announcer's voice cut through the air. Behold, the first trial begins. Not even the strongest of our kind endure beyond this stage. From the darkness beyond the gates, machines of war rolled forward. Their shapes were jagged and brutal, forged from metal that had destroyed entire armies. Their claws scraped the stone floor. Their eyes glowed red like fire. These machines were designed with one purpose: pain. The human stood alone. His body still shook from the crushing gravity he had survived, burns still raw across his skin. The aliens expected him to collapse before the machines even reached him, but he did not move back. He stepped forward. A roar filled the arena, half from the machines, half from the angry crowd. The first machine struck. A massive claw came down, heavy enough to smash bones into dust. The human rolled aside at the last second, the claw crashing into stone. Sparks exploded. Dust rose like a wave. He did not hesitate. He ran toward the wall of spinning blades, using the very machine strike as cover. The crowd gasped. This was not survival, it was strategy. The alien woman on the council platform leaned forward. Her eyes narrowed, focused only on him. She whispered, though her voice was sharp, "No, he cannot last. The body will break." Another machine lunged. This one spat fire, streams of white flame that could melt metal. The human dove rolling across the burning floor. His skin blistered, smoke rising from his arms, but still he stood. His breathing was heavy, but his steps were steady. The trial shifted again. The floor itself opened into a maze, walls rising high with hidden traps. Spikes shot out, chains lashed across, the air filled with the scent of burning oil. The human was swallowed into the labyrinth, vanishing from the crowd's sight. The arena hushed. Only the distant sound of clashing metal echoed. The aliens held their breath, waiting for a scream. Then, from the smoke and shadow, he emerged again, running. His hands bled from climbing jagged walls. His chest heaved, but his eyes were alive, bright and unbroken. The crowd erupted, but this time it was not all laughter. Some voices shouted in disbelief. Some hissed in fear. The myth was being broken in front of their eyes. The woman whispered again, though her words trembled. "Impossible. He moves as if the trial feeds him instead of killing him." The final part of the first trial unleashed itself. The ground split apart, forming a chasm filled with boiling energy, a storm of lightning and flame. A single narrow bridge extended across. The machines roared behind him, forcing him forward. The crowd chanted for his death. The human stepped onto the bridge. Every step shook. Bolts of lightning struck the stone. The heat burned his lungs. His skin cracked, blood mixing with ash. His legs trembled, but he did not stop. One step, another, another. Halfway across, a strike of lightning hit his side. He fell to one knee. The arena roared with victory cries. "It ends," they shouted, but the human pushed his hand against the burning stone. He rose again, teeth clenched, face twisted in pain, but eyes burning with fire. Step by step he crossed, and when he reached the other side, silence fell. The machines shut down. The bridge pulled back. The storm vanished. The announcer's voice shook, breaking the silence. How do you tell me it survived?" The crowd screamed, but it was not celebration. It was confusion, anger, and fear. For centuries, no one had lived through the trial like this, not even their greatest champions. The woman on the council did not speak this time. She only stared, her lips parted slightly, her breath uneven. She had whispered impossible before, but now she did not dare. She knew something the others refused to see. This human was more than flesh. He stood battered and bleeding, yet his back was straight, his gaze unbroken. He did not bow, he did not thank the council, he did not even acknowledge the crowd. He only turned his head toward the next gate, waiting for it to open. The arena had seen something it could not explain. A truth whispered through the minds of every alien present. If a human could do this once, what else could he do? And the night was far from over. The second trial, defying death again. The arena still echoed with disbelief. The human had survived what no other could. The aliens shouted, argued, hissed among themselves. Some claimed it was a trick. Others whispered of forbidden powers. But all of them watched with eyes wide open because deep down they knew the truth. He had done the impossible once. And now, he dared to try again. The gates rumbled. A new darkness spread across the arena floor. The smell of frost and metal drifted into the air. The announcer's voice trembled as he declared, "The second trial begins. No living creature has ever passed this stage. Not once in all history." The human lifted his head. His body was broken, his skin scarred and burned, yet his eyes shone steady. He took a single step forward and the arena went quiet. Then the cold came. It was not simple winter. It was a storm of death. Shards of ice rained from above like falling blades. Wind screamed loud enough to tear stone apart. Frost spread across the floor, cracking into sharp spikes that reached for his legs. The human gasped as the cold cut through him, biting deep into his bones. His breath turned to ice in the air. His skin split and bled from the frozen wind. Any other creature would have collapsed instantly, but he moved. Slowly at first, dragging his body through the storm, shielding his face with one arm. The shard sliced into his back, but he pressed forward. His footsteps left trails of blood on the frozen floor. The crowd shouted. Some screamed for the storm to finish him. Others fell silent, afraid to admit what their eyes were seeing. On the council platform, the alien woman gripped the railing tight. Her whisper was sharp, but this time her voice shook. He should be dead already. No one can live through this. Lightning cracked above. The storm grew worse. From the walls, new machines rose. Monsters of ice and steel, their arms forged into blades, their eyes glowing white. They moved faster than the wind, striking with inhuman speed. One charged the human. The crowd roared. The blade came down, but the human caught it. His hands bled instantly, skin tearing, but he held it long enough to twist aside. He pulled the weapon down into the frost, shattering the machine with its own weight. Gasps spread through the arena. Another machine attacked, then another. The human ducked, rolled, struck back with nothing but stone from the broken floor. His movements were slow, clumsy, but fueled by something stronger than flesh. He refused to die. Each hit pushed him closer to the edge of collapse. He fell once, his body shivering so violently it seemed his bones might snap. The storm screamed louder. The crowd roared again. This was the end. But then, he rose, one knee first, then the other. He pushed himself up, swaying like a broken tower, but standing. His chest heaved, his eyes burned, and he took another step forward. The woman whispered again, almost in awe now. Impossible. Twice. No one survives twice. The final strike of the trial came. The storm twisted into a vortex, pulling everything toward its frozen core. Machines, ice, and stone ripped from the ground, dragged into the roaring spiral. The human was caught too. His body lifted, spun, torn at by shards of ice. The crowd screamed in triumph. The announcer began to call his death. But then, against all sense, the human reached out. His hand gripped a jagged piece of stone, his body slamming against it with a force that nearly broke him in half. Blood poured from his side. His other hand reached forward, clawing against the frozen ground, dragging himself out of the storm. Step by step, crawl by crawl, until at last the vortex collapsed behind him. Silence again. The human lay on the ground, motionless for a long moment. The crowd leaned forward, holding their breath. Then he moved. Slowly, painfully, he pushed himself to his knees, then to his feet. His entire body shook. His skin was blue from cold. His lips bled. But he stood alive. The announcer's voice cracked, barely able to speak. He survives again. The arena erupted, but it was no longer the sound of laughter. It was fear. It was anger. It was disbelief. The alien woman's hand trembled as she whispered once more. Twice, he has done the impossible. Twice. The human looked up toward the council. He said nothing. His eyes alone spoke, unbroken, unafraid, daring them to open the third gate. And deep in their hearts, the aliens began to fear not for him, but for themselves. Because if a human could do this twice, what would stop him from doing it thrice? The third trial. The unthinkable. The arena was no longer loud. It was quiet. The kind of silence that came when even the boldest were afraid to speak. The human had done the impossible twice. Every alien in the stands, every warrior in the shadows, every voice in the galaxy watching through screens. All waited. The announcer's throat was dry, his words broken as he called out, "The third trial begins. No one has ever survived this, not once, not ever." The gates opened, but this time there were no machines, no storms, no walls of fire or ice. Only darkness. A void poured into the arena like living smoke. The light of the torches bent and vanished inside it. The crowd shifted uneasily. This was the trial feared even by their greatest champions. The alien woman on the council felt her heart race. Her lips trembled as she whispered, "He cannot face this. No one can." The human stepped forward anyway. The darkness swallowed him. At first nothing happened. Then the sound came. Whispers. Thousands of voices clawing at his mind, speaking in languages no ear should understand. They pulled at his memories, his fears, his deepest pains. The void was not a test of body. It was a test of soul. The human staggered. His chest heaved. He clutched his head as the voices screamed inside him. They showed him visions. The battles he had lost, the friends who had died, the hopelessness of fighting endless wars. They pressed into him, crushing his spirit with every step. The crowd could not see what he saw, but they knew. This was the void. It never failed. It stripped warriors down to nothing, leaving only broken husks. The human fell to one knee. His hands shook. Blood dripped from his nose. His breath came in sharp gasps. For the first time, it looked as if he might not rise. The woman's whisper was sharp, desperate now. "Stay down. No more, you will die." But the human clenched his fists. He slammed one hand against the ground, the sound echoing like thunder. Slowly, painfully, he rose again. His body swayed, but his eyes burned bright. He spoke for the first time since the trials began, his voice raw and steady. "I am human. I do not break." The void screamed louder, as if enraged by his defiance. The shadows twisted into shapes, monsters formed from fear itself. They lunged at him, claws of darkness tearing across his skin. Each strike left wounds that burned deeper than fire. The human fought with nothing but his bare hands. Every swing was weak compared to the monsters, but he refused to stop. His knuckles split open. His body bled from dozens of cuts. Yet he kept standing, kept moving forward. The aliens in the crowd trembled. They had never seen such defiance. No one had ever fought the void. They only screamed until they died. But this human fought it like an enemy he could beat. Step by step, he walked through the nightmare. The visions tore at him, his failures, his fears, his pain, but he answered each one with another step forward. The woman pressed a hand to her chest. Her whisper was no longer cold. It was filled with awe. He is walking through the void. At last, after what felt like an eternity, the darkness began to fade. The whispers grew weaker. The monsters dissolved into smoke. The light of the arena returned, and the human stood there covered in blood, barely able to breathe but alive. The announcer could not speak. His mouth moved, but no words came. The silence of the arena was louder than any roar. Every alien's heart pounded with the same thought. He has survived. 3 times. The woman's voice broke the silence. A whisper, trembling, filled with disbelief in something else, something like reverence. Impossible. Not once, not twice, but thrice. The human lifted his head toward the council. His eyes locked with hers. There was no triumph in his face, no smile, no celebration. Only truth. He had done what no being had ever done, and the galaxy would never be the same. The crowd erupted, not in cheers, but in screams of fear. Some fled the arena. Others shouted that the human was a monster. The council themselves shifted nervously, their power shaken. But the woman did not move. She stared at him, her voice soft but certain now. He has broken every law of survival. He is not just human. He is beyond. And for the first time in countless ages, the aliens realized something terrifying. Their greatest weapon of fear had failed, and it had failed because of him. The aftermath. Fear and awe, the arena was broken. The walls shook with the weight of silence. Where there had once been laughter, taunts, and cruel cheers, now there was only fear. Thousands of alien eyes stared at the human who stood at the center, bloodied, broken, but alive. Alive, after 3 impossible trials. No voice dared to speak. Even the announcer, once so loud, now trembled with his mouth half open, his words lost. The crowd waited for the council to declare the human's end, but the council members shifted uneasily, whispering among themselves, their proud masks beginning to crack, and then, slowly, the human lifted his head. He was not smiling. He was not shouting. His chest rose and fell with heavy breaths. His arms hung limp, his body covered in wounds, but his eyes burned brighter than fire. He looked at the council as if their power meant nothing. The alien woman on the platform felt her breath catch. She had whispered impossible so many times that the word no longer had meaning. This human had destroyed it. He had done what no one in the galaxy believed could be done. 3 times in one night. The crowd broke into chaos. Some screamed that the human was a demon. Others shouted that he must be destroyed before he destroyed them. A few, only a few, whispered with awe that perhaps he was chosen, perhaps he was something greater. The council leader slammed his staff against the stone, his voice booming. This is a lie. No human, no creature should have survived. But his words were weak. The fear in his eyes betrayed him. He looked at the human as if staring at a storm he could not control. The woman rose from her seat. Her voice cut through the noise, soft yet sharp. No lie. He has done it. You all saw it. The arena quieted again. All eyes turned to her. She pointed down at the human, her hand trembling, but her words steady. He has broken our trials. He has broken our law. He has broken us. The crowd gasped. The human, still silent, took a step forward. His foot pressed against the blood-soaked sand. Another step. Then another. Each movement echoed like thunder in the silence. The aliens nearest the floor pulled back, afraid to be near him. He stopped at the edge of the arena and raised his head high. Finally he spoke, his voice raw but strong enough to reach every corner of the chamber. You call it impossible. I call it survival. I call it being human. His words struck harder than any blade. The aliens recoiled. The council shifted. The woman's eyes widened, not in fear this time, but in awe. The council leader shouted, desperate now, "Seize him! End this!" Warriors rushed into the arena. Tall figures in armor, armed with spears and blasters. The crowd cheered in panic and hope. Surely the human would finally fall. But as the warriors stepped closer, they hesitated. He looked at them. Just looked. His eyes told them everything, that he had faced fire, ice, void, and death itself and still stood. Compared to that, their weapons were nothing. One by one, their grips faltered. One by one, they stepped back. The crowd erupted again, but this time in terror. They realized the truth. Even their strongest no longer dared to face him. The woman whispered almost reverently. They fear him. They all fear him. The council leader's voice cracked with rage. He is only one man. But deep down, even he knew it was no longer true. The human was not just one man anymore. He was a symbol, a truth that could not be silenced. The human turned away from the warriors and looked up at the sky above the arena. His body swayed, but he stood tall. His voice rang out one last time. You built trials to prove no one could rise. I rose. You built laws to keep us weak. I broke them. Remember this night. For humanity does not bow. Silence followed. Then a single sound broke it. The sound of the alien woman falling to one knee. Her head bowed, not in fear but in respect. Others followed. First one. Then another. Then dozens. The ripple spread across the arena until half the crowd knelt, unable to deny what they had witnessed. The council leader trembled, his power slipping through his hands. For the first time in ages, the council was not feared. The human was. The woman lifted her head, her voice strong now, no longer a whisper. He is not impossible. He is inevitable. And in that moment, the galaxy changed forever. The human had not only survived the trials, he had broken the chains of fear that held entire worlds. He had shown them what humanity truly was, unbreakable, and the aliens would never forget.